What's going on, people? Welcome to the end of season review. It's done and dusted. First season under Patrick Vieira. Finished with an FA Cup semi-final. 12th in the league. We'll be discussing that all and more. But as always, we want to hear from you. So let us know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about the season. And share your thoughts overall on individual players and, where we finish in the league. And, see whether you agree or disagree with us. Let us know in the comment section. As always, if you do enjoy it, leave a like and subscribe. But before we do get into the show, I'm joined by Patrick and T here. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned into our shows all season long. Without you guys, we don't have any of this. So it's all up to you guys. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. And even those who haven't left a comment, but we watch all season long. I know there's people out there. So thank you from everyone at Back of the Nest. And also, before we start, next season, we're planning to do more and better. So if you've got any suggestions for any type of shows that you want to see or videos that you want to see, let us know in the comment section down below. Now all that introduction is done, let's talk about the season. And I'll start off with you, Patrick. Just your general thoughts on the season that we had. Finished 12th in the league, FA Cup semi-final, first time Vieira's managing in the Premier League. There were question marks whether he can do it or not. What did you think about it as a whole now that it's done and dusted?
Honestly, I couldn't be any happier. I was very concerned when Hodgson left and we were scrambling for a manager. We went through so many different choices. We were rejected by different managers. And then Vieira's name pops up. And luckily, again, being in America and knowing a little bit about him from these days at NYCFC, I was a little nervous, but I liked the idea of having he's a Premier League legend as our manager. And he comes in, didn't have a lot of time, signed some, really good young players in Gallagher and Gahey, Anderson, Olise. And then the season got off to, not a great start. But I thought overall he did a really great job. I love the way he integrated the younger players into our system. Got Olise, got Eze back into the mix towards the end of the season. The job he did with Mateta. The cup run to me is a highlight of the season. I know people say we had an easy cup run, but late game stuff, set pieces. But overall, honestly, coming from Hodgson again, who I thought did a good job over the 4 years, but towards the end, honestly, you and I, we did watch alongs during the pandemic. It was awful to watch. And honestly, I can honestly say I love watching Palace now. Even when we lose, I hate to lose. I love watching Palace again, and that's the best thing I can say about this season.
And it was awful to watch, but it's more than that. It felt like we didn't have any plans going forward. It's like, What's going to happen next? Do you get it? It wasn't just on the game. It's just the club as a whole. It's like we've been in this position of staying up in the league. But what are we actually going to do to come out this month? Are we actually going to go and try for once? So that was my feelings with Hodgson moving on. But next season, hopefully, we don't ever talk about Hodgson because it's pretty much done and dusted now. There's no point talking about him anymore. But T, in terms of your expectations going into the season and what's happened so far, are you pleased with how everything went? Did it match your expectations? Did we do a bit better, or maybe you expected a bit more? What was your feeling like going into the season and now looking back at it?
I think the expectations kind of changed as the season went on. When it was the summer and we knew that Roy was leaving and going through all the saga of trying to find a manager and going from thinking, okay, hey, maybe it could be Favre or maybe maybe it is Vieira, whoever it's going to be, to him becoming the guy. I think it was like in July maybe, and then thinking to yourself, well, he's got a lot he's got to do just because we lost so many players or we're losing so many players, and he's not going to get a full summer train with certain players that you would want. So it's kind of like the art of not knowing, but being hopeful. I mean, as soon as we brought Vieira in, I think one of the first things I did was went and watched that OGC Nice docuseries just to try to get a feel for him as a manager. And watching that kind of gave me confidence because I liked his approach. I liked his demeanor. I like how he handled the players. I like how he handled the media. But at the end, I think it kind of transitioned into just wondering how things could turn out, or what would his message be, or what was his philosophy be, his football philosophy. As you watched it, I liked what I saw from the very beginning, but naturally you could see the things that we needed to work on or things we need to get better at. I think corners was one of the glaring ones for a while, and then closing out games and understanding how to protect the lead. But it was good to see that as the season went on, those things got better. So that means that not only is he really drilling it, he's aware of it. He's making sure that we're working on those things to improve on it. So I think the expectations changed for me because the better I saw us getting, I was like, man, we could really do something more. Maybe we could finish higher than even what we expected, and much higher than what people were saying about us with the whole relegation piece. But it was one of those things that, like I said, we had this conversation so many times over so many weeks where we may have gotten a tie in a fixture, and we're actually upset about the tie in the fixture compared to other times when we were happy to pull a tie. So in a way that we were playing and the way that Vieira had his approach changed our mindset as a fan base to now where we expected more from our club, or we wanted more. We wanted better from our club just because we knew what we had and what we could do. And you could see these flashes of players out there. So I think overall with the season, I mean, it exceeded a lot of people's expectations. But I think as the season went on, too, we also understood that this team is capable of a lot more than what we realized. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like Patrick said, it was a great cup run, and regardless of who you play, a cup run is a cup run. You play who they put in front of you, and you beat who they put in front of you. And at the end of the day, if we were to go on to the finals or to win it, I don't think many people are going to talk about who you played in the round of 16, or it's about the fact that you made it all the way through the gauntlet and got there. We made it through all those teams, through those tough matches like Stoke, and got to Wembley. You know what I mean? Those are the type of narratives that you want to have for your club. And I think going into next year, I think we're in good shape, to be honest with you.
Yeah, look, how I see it is this season was always going to be a transition season because we talk about Patrick Vieira not having experience being a manager in the Premier League. So when he first joined us, I understood that this rebuilding and this process is not going to be done in 6 months or even this season. We still haven't seen it all. As we're talking about potential here, there's still much to live up to. So how we've approached the season and how it's gone throughout the season, I am pleased. Like, I will give it a solid, probably a 7 out of 10. Or it depends how I'm looking at it, because with the players, I did get disappointed towards the end because we've seen what we can do throughout the season, and towards the end, at certain games, it just felt like, especially after that FA Cup defeat, we just one game good, one game bad, one game good, one game bad, and that Everton game was like the highlight of it. It's like, how on earth did that happen to you? So overall, I was massively pleased with the actual progress that we made as a football club. We're actually headed in a direction. I think that's the key. Forget about the results in the league and where we finish in the league this season. Forget about FA Cup. That's a massive plus. But as a football club, we know what we want to achieve. We want to focus on younger players. We want to develop them into the talents that they could be in terms of living up to the potentials, and we want to build them and grow the club like that. And I understand the process. I understand what Crystal Palace now stands for after the last 5 or 6 years of just staying up and just bringing in players, 33-year-olds or 27-year-old or 26-year-old, just going all over the place. I feel like we've got a direction now and we're heading in the right way, which is the key for me. And this season is just a foundation. Next season now, I will judge Patrick Vieira accordingly. We achieved this season. So next season, let's see how we can do a bit better. And there is going to be a bit more expectation on him and the players because we showed up what we can do this season. So it's only right that we expect at least the same or a bit more going into next season, which is not going to be easy. It really isn't. And this season could have been a lot better if we stayed consistent throughout games, which has been our main problem. But talking about Vieira, that's the next topic I want to go into.
Actually, before you go into that, I want to pull you up on one thing. I understand we all were upset about the Everton match, but I want you to just reflect a bit. We had lost 3 matches in a row during that time. We lost the Leicester, Chelsea, and Newcastle. But do you realize that in the last 7 games, we only lost 2 matches? We only lost 2.
You can look at it like that. You have
to look at it that way. You were saying that it was one good, one bad. It's not true. But you say it was one good, one bad.
I'm saying that we could have achieved better. I'm saying that we could have achieved better based on the results. And I'll bring out the results. It's more than just the Everton. But the Everton game was like the pinnacle. The Everton game pretty much summed up our season. We can play brilliant football. That first half of football was a 9 out of 10. We absolutely dominated them in possession, playing them about, scored goals, solid defensively. It showed what we can achieve. But that second
Right.
half showed the other side of us this season. And the reason why I'm genuinely saying this, reason why we're not in European spots, which would have been massive under his first season under Vieira, considering he just
Right.
joined here. But it's the players sometimes sleeping on. And I can bring up games. Southampton at home, I was there. 2-0, we absolutely dominated them. We fell asleep for 25 minutes and then start the second half, start second half perfectly, but it was a little bit too late. We end up getting a draw.
Right.
I remember away from home, Patrick Vieira, the sub, with James Tompkins coming on. We could have won that game. Was it a bit too negative?
Game.
Then
Right.
the Arsenal game, and then Brighton at home conceding last minute goals. We've had a very good season where we play well. We played brilliant for like first half or the second half. But it's about keeping it up for at least, maybe not 90 minutes, but at least 75 minutes. At times, we have collapsed as a team, and that's one area that we can improve on. And if we did improve in that area, which we should, then we would have finished European spots. I'm not saying it's a bad season, by the way. I'm just saying that's probably been a downside, which is normal. It's our first season.
Right.
We have to get used to it. And that's how it goes. You know, these hiccups are going to happen, as T did mention, with the corners, with the set pieces, and all them stuff. We improved on them. And next season, that's one area we need to improve on. The mentality, staying focused and not getting complacent throughout games, even if we're winning, even if we're playing well.
I get that, but there were also matches that we came back from you leaving out. The West Ham game away, where we came back and got the points. The Leicester game at home, we came back, got the points. The Southampton game away, we won 2-1. So I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. But for a first-year manager, you're going to have those hiccups. You're going to have them. Okay?
I did say that, though.
Right, I know that, but I'm saying you focus on the negative, but there were matches that we came back from that, to me, almost balanced it out. Not totally, because I agree with you. There were more matches that we lost, but there are matches in there. Again, West Ham, Leicester, Southampton. We had not even Man City at home. We should not have gotten a point out of the game. We shouldn't have. They were much better enough. We got a point.
100%. And in fact, I've done a calculation, Patrick. I've done a calculation because I was speaking to someone else. And despite that, I was harsh on my calculation. I haven't got up with me right now. But if, for example, we lost a Man City game, the games that we got lucky, and I try to be harsh as I can be. Even like, for example, Leeds game, we dominate them, but I don't think we were good enough in the final third. So I put everything into consideration. Even with that, even if we took out like the Brighton game, which we should have won, Arsenal game that we should have won, Everton game that we should have won, we would have still been at least in European spots, at least below Man United. And that's me marking it harshly. Look, we'll talk about improvements next season. Further down the shows, but for now, let's now move on to the next topic, Patrick Vieira, that I want to talk about in more detail. And the question is really, do we have faith in him to lead us long term? And the reason why I'm saying this is based on this season, he's been very solid. But do we expect Patrick Vieira to stay on with us long term? And if we don't, what do we have to do, or if we can do anything to keep us on? So talk about Patrick Vieira. So what do you guys think about him and his position and what he's done this season? Is it where do you think his mind frame's at right now after what he's had?
Well, for me, I don't think any reason why he wouldn't want to stay. First thing is, where would he go in the Premier League? Arsenal just re-signed Arteta to a long-term contract. He's not going to go to Man City with Pep. He's not ready for that kind of step up. There's nowhere for him to really go to. We just got, a brand new academy that is full of really good youngsters. The first season of the academy in category 1 last year, they ended up, in first place, lost on goal. For this year, they were finished, I believe it was in 4th place. There's a lot of talent there. This year, he tried to get players like Raksaki involved and Adam Arola. Didn't get enough playing time, but they are in and about the squad training. Other players were in and about the squad training. He's got a good young core players that he brought in. I've mentioned before, Olise, Gahey, Anderson. Eze's now back in the fold. We've been linked to other players coming in the summer, like Decore. Possibly, you mentioned before we started the show, people like Jed Spence, Brennan Johnson, possibly. I mean, who knows who we were linked to? So the future looks bright as far as Vieira. I can't think of why he wants to leave. Again, looking at this first season, we finished in 12th position D. Just throw out some of the numbers here. 48 points, 11 wins, 15 draws, 12 losses, 50 goals scored, 46 goals conceded. Our first ever positive goal difference. As you just mentioned before, a couple more of those wins turning into wins, you get into the European spots. Next season, obviously top 4 is out of the question. You're going to have Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Tottenham. United will be back under new manager. But honestly, 8th place is something we could be looking at. 8th place. A League Cup run. Like I've already mentioned before, you got the World Cup now in the winter. Maybe teams are focused on that. Look at what happened to Liverpool throughout the season. 3 cups they got to finals, never scored a goal, but won 2 cups. I mean, anything can happen in the cups. The cups are weird, you know what I mean? So as far as him leaving, I can't see him leaving. I think the future's bright. You've got a owner in Paris who's going to back you. You've got the director of football in Freeman who's going to back you and get players that you want to get. So for me, you're in a catchment area in London, South London, where players that we've already mentioned. I think someone mentioned Paris might mention that we're going to try and get players from North London, other parts of the country to come to our Category 1 academy. Future's really bright for our club. So would he leave? I don't see it. Maybe if a player or two were to leave, let's say we're going to get to later, maybe a Zaha said he wanted to leave, possibly. But honestly, D, I think the future is so bright at Palace. He's got such what's it, potential here. I don't see why he want to leave. Honestly, I don't see it.
Exactly. To grow as a manager, there is potential. And you look at this season and what we've achieved, and we backed him, what he can achieve as a manager as well. There's also going to be that risk behind his thought that if he does leave for a bigger club, and let's say it doesn't go as he wants to, and like let's say he doesn't get back enough for the players, cause a mess. It's like, what's next? You get it. So I feel like Vieira right now. And another thing I want to say about Vieira is, I think Vieira's spoken about this as well. It's not all Vieira, and I want to give credit to the other coaching staff as well, because you can see throughout the games, Sean Derry comes up to Vieira. He's looking at the video analysis. You see, Ozan Roberts. He comes up to Vieira giving it back. It's the whole coaching staff that has made us achieve what we've achieved this season. And one thing that I do like is, not every game has been pressing. I want people to know this if you're neutral watching this. Against Man City, we didn't press Man City for 90 minutes. We change our approach based on the style of opponents. Sometimes it works, like Man City, and sometimes it's over the top, like the Chelsea game in the semi-final, which was my worst game of the season, where Vieira just overthought it, in my personal opinion. He overthought that semi-final. We lost that semi-final way worse than we should have, due to us playing 5 at the back, which we've never done before up until that game. And that's why we struggled. But as overall, how I see it, and maybe you agree or disagree with me, if Patrick Vieira was to stay at Crystal Palace for the next 5 years, how I see it going is, I think we could be a solid top 10 club. I think that's the minimum. I think we can be a solid top 10 club. And what Patrick mentioned about the youth, I think he'll be a good developer due to his experience and players looking up to him. You can see even experienced players that want to get advice from Patrick Vieira. So I feel like he'll have a massive impact on the academy. And I would like us to go on a cup run. I would like us to win something, but of course, that's going to be a bit hard considering the money being spent. But I think we can be a top 10 club going forward. How do you see it going, T? If Patrick Vieira was to be here in 5 years' time, where are Crystal Palace, in your personal opinion?
You know, I think when we talk about where we could be in 5 years if Patrick is still with us, I think within that 5 years, we'll see ourselves become a solidified top 10 team. I think maybe, we could see ourselves in one of those 5 years made into Europe, especially with the inclusion of the Europa Conference League now. That gives more incentive for places. So I think that it makes perfect sense that we could see ourselves in that position. The reason why I don't think Vieira would want to leave and why I could see him wanting to be here that long is the fact that he has so many great things at his fingertips right now that he may have not had in other places. The budgeting academy, you've got, like you said, you've got a director of football and owners that are backing you. He's a thinker. Patrick Vieira is extremely cerebral when his approach to football, and you can see it through his pragmatic approach to formations and style of play and things. It's like Mourinho-esque in a way. He's going to throw in different wrinkles to the game that are going to be a lot different based on who we're going in against, whether it be the formation or the style of play. The thing that I think he realizes the most is the success that he had in this season was success he had with a club that didn't have all of his people in place, all of his players. So he's still putting the pieces to his puzzle together to create the master plan. So I think overall, he's going to want to stay because he's going to want to see this out almost, like this is my plan. I'm going to see this through. So whether it means getting more players in certain positions or being able to play certain formations, like he talked about formational fluidity, able to 3 and move to a 5-3-2 and what have you, having those type of options, that type of ability to play, I think right now he's probably has excitement. I think he probably is chomping at the bit to get going with the next season, just because he knows all of what he has at his disposal right now.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and I think that's key. Having a manager that can actually is not scared to change it about. Because if you have plan A, if Patrick Vieira just had a plan A, and that was it, and that's how we're gonna play that formation, we're not gonna try anything else. Look, I did blame him for the Chelsea game, but after the Chelsea game, he has been trying that new five at the back. Let's say we only play 4-3-3,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna press you regardless of who you are. We don't care if you're Man City, we don't care if you're Burnley, and we're gonna play like this. Then in the long term, people are gonna figure us out. But with Patrick Vieira, one thing that I do like about him is that not every game is the same. In terms of lineup, he ain't the same. In terms of approach, he ain't the same. And that's why that's one quality I think that you need as a modern manager to be able to succeed, because it will get too easy. You see lots of managers that just have their approach, is one approach. We're going to play like this, and they just get found out. And with Vieira, that isn't the case. And another thing that I want to touch on Vieira before we move on to the next topic is that, look, every manager is going to have his ups. We've had our ups this season with Patrick Vieira, but it hasn't been all honeymoon. And I like that. I like that in a way. Of course, at the time, I didn't like it. And the reason why I like that is during the hard times, we still came out of it. The players didn't lose faith in Patrick Vieira. The players still believed in his approach, even when we weren't winning games. I remember we had a period where, I think it was like 5 or 6 games. We didn't win any games. There were questions about Vieira. Does he get found out? We came out of that. We still, towards the end of the season, we could have still finished in the top 10. We could have still had a very successful finish. And that is key. It shows that the players believe in him. And it shows that even through the hard times, like Eddie Howe under Bournemouth, he struggled. He had his great moments, but his bad moments were very bad. And then it went sour. And that's, at the end of it, he managed to get them pretty much relegated. So Patrick Vieira, what he's shown so far is that he can handle both sides of things. And I think that is very, very important for a manager to be able to succeed in the long term. And that's been the main positive out of me for Patrick Vieira. His whole philosophy, I love it, but his actual ability to adapt as well to certain moments. Let's talk about the signings, because there's been a few signings this season and quality ones as well. Mark Gahey, Joachim Anderson, Edward, Elise, Hughes, Conor Gallagher. What have we made of them signings and what they've achieved this season? And I want to start with maybe Mark Gahey, because he could be the future Palace captain. And there's rumors about him leaving. What have you made of his season? And what do you think it is from here onwards for him? Because he seems like he's going to be a regular England player going forward. He already has been, and he's still so young.
Yeah, I think he's been brilliant this season. Got his first full international call up for England under Vieira. Undefeated as our captain. Part of a team that had over the course of the season, was it 12 clean sheets. Like you just said, hopefully not, but rumored already to be leaving. I don't see how that works actually. I know we have some kind of I know Chelsea has a buyback clause, but it's not. It's kind of similar to the Abraham.
How much
clause,
is it
but I
worth?
think it's like
Sorry to cut you, Patrick. How much is it worth?
I'm not exactly.
How much
I'm
do you
not.
think it's worth?
Oh, is he worth? I would say English player, young. He's 21. 50 million
At least. I'm saying.
at least.
Harry Maguire went for 80 mil to Man United. Harry
Right.
Maguire. If Harry Maguire went for 80 mil,
I was 60 million.
Yeah. He's honestly, even at 6, what's the point of selling someone that's going to be that good? That is that good. Like, unless they offer us something over the top, then yeah, even like 6. I want to see something outside. We don't need to sell him. I don't think he should be out for sale. But it shows the good that he's done this season. The fact that we got for 80 mil and now the fact that we can probably sell him for 50 mil already shows how much of credit goes to Dougie Friedman for these signings. And for Mark Gahey, I think Chelsea have absolutely had a mare letting him go for that cheap. And they, now they're 100% regret it anyways, because they're going to have defenders leaving. Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so what you're saying, though, see, that's why I would think that there's no chance we selling, because that's the kind of thing that undercuts what Vieira's trying to build here. You mentioned just now, future captain, an England player, that young, you had him for a season. That just undermines what you're trying to do. That gets people like Zaha thinking, why am I staying here? Odise saying to himself, why am I staying here? I don't mind us being linked, but honestly, remember in the D, you've been a Palace fan, we talk about it on other, back in this podcast. When we start selling our players, that makes no sense. And Palace really, honestly, don't really do that. Look in the past, we haven't really ever. I mean, Zaha went 10 years ago to United when he was 20 years old. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But going back to Gahey, man, one, he's been really good. Two, he's created a great partnership with Joachim Anderson. Now we've all talked about Anderson being a little shaky in areas, but as the season went on, that partnership became, to me, one of the best in the Premier League. You know, got one player who drives the balls forward and is a great marker and a great defender, and you can't get past him in Gahey. You got another player who can ping a ball 50, 60 yards to your outside left or outside right player, can win balls in the air, which he wasn't doing before. You know, drive the ball forward just like Gay, ball playing, so he can play the ball to his feet, not worry about him losing the ball, making silly mistakes. I mean, the partnership's been great. As far as Gay's been brilliant this season. As you said, I'd be shocked next year if he's not captain or vice captain, because when you think about that Luke is probably going to leave, you've got options that are limited. Obviously, Macca's a choice, or Wardy. I'd go with a younger player. I'd go with Gahey right away, or even Anderson. Anderson captain Fulham last year when he got relegated. So to me, go with the younger players. Give him that responsibility right away. Show people like Elise that we don't care about how young you are. If you're good enough, we can give that leadership, opportunity. So Gay's been brilliant this year. Been brilliant.
Yeah, with the captaincy thing, I know we don't want to talk about next season in too much detail, because we're going to be talking about next season in a couple of weeks time or whenever we do.
Right.
But talking about captaincy, I'm not too sure. As good as Mark Gay has been this season, I'm not too sure he's ready for captaincy. I'm not too sure if he should be captain. That's another word. I feel like James McCarthy has deserved to be captain, and he's not going to start every game. Maka, I don't want to go into another topic. He's not going to start every game. If you have Maka as a captain, which I feel
make
like
him club captain,
and then Mark Gay as vice captain, Mark Gay will still captain a lot of games. You know? I don't think you lose out. And then once that period with Maka is done, then he can be the main captain. I don't, because the thing is with Mark Gay, even if he doesn't have the captaincy band on, you can see he's built for it. You get it? He doesn't need to be actual captain, but if you make him vice captain, he will actually officially lead us on the pitch like that when McCarthy ain't playing. And I feel like that it'll be fair. You got Mako, who's an experienced, still good player, but you'll have Mark Gahey, who's also a solid option as well if needed. But T, talked about Gahey as well. Talk about Edward. I'm going to talk about Edward, and you can share your thoughts in a bit later. But Patrick, me and you with Edward, we've been going forward, haven't we? We've been going forward all season long.
Yeah, we have.
What have you made of his season? We mentioned Joachim Anderson. Let's move on from him and let's talk about Edward a bit. What have we made of his season? He scored 6 goals. He still scored more goals than Mateta in the league, but he hasn't really had that many opportunities as the season went on. It seemed like he died down a bit. How do you sum up his season? What was so good at the start that fell off towards the end? Was it just a hype? What is it? What is it with Edward that it didn't quite work out the way that I wanted? Because I thought he'll be a regular starter, but it seemed like he was better out wide than up front. Why was that?
So I will say the first thing is I think the new league is a big problem. The SPL is a good league. It's not the Premier League. So I'm willing to give him that 1 year, the same way the Bundesliga lower level is not the same as the Premier League. So Mateta took a year to adjust. I give him that. But honestly, D, I think there's something in the way that he plays that doesn't work. Now, whether that would be training or whether that be tactically. So, for instance, the perfect example is Mateta is much better in that high pressing role than Edward is. He showed it, and that's the reason, exactly the reason why Vieira started to play him post New Year Millwall going forward. Secondly, I think Edward thinks he's in his Scottish Premier League and tries to dribble the ball way too much. He's got great feet, don't get me wrong, but you can't dribble 4 or 5 defenders unless you're Sadio Mane or Mo Salah, and they couldn't do it yesterday in the Champions League. So that doesn't work. Can he do well? Yes. He got off to a great start, the Spurs match, but you keep banging on about how many goals he scored more than Mateta. But honestly, that's a false
There's
stat.
a fact. That's not a false stat. That's not a false stat. That is an actual stat. He has scored 6 goals.
You are totally ruling out. You're ruling out the FA Cup, which isn't fair.
Okay,
isn't fair.
I'm just saying. I didn't talk about FA Cup. I just talked about the league.
But there was a goal.
Okay. All right. Even if you do include FA Cup. All right. Even if you do include FA Cup, Edward has scored goals this season. All right. Mateta, how many more goals has he scored than Edward overall, including the cup games? Has he scored 3 more? 4 more? So he ain't now Mateta scored 10 goals and Edward scored 1 goal. Edward has scored goals, so he's got it in him. But for me, as the season went on, I understood what you're saying, Patrick. I did, even though I wanted Edward to start at the start. But the one thing is with Edward, that I think will personally change is he didn't get enough service up front. Of course, you talked about dribbles, and most recently against Man United, he was trying too hard.
Yeah,
He was
right.
trying.
Didn't wanna
To,
pass
he
it.
was trying
Right.
too hard, and that was just pathetic. I personally didn't understand it. It seemed like he was frustrated in terms of like he's trying to do something. He's trying to do a bit too much, and he should because he hasn't had the opportunities as the season went on, and he's trying to prove a point, and it didn't work out for him because he just ran into defenders. But with Edward, I still think going forward next season, I know we don't want to talk about next season, but in the long run, it will be successful if he has a player like Eze behind him, which he didn't have throughout the season because Eze was out injured. We didn't have that creative player behind him. And if we do have that creative player, and if you do put him in positions in front of goal, so put the ball in the box in front of goal, I feel like he will score goals. He'll score more goals and he'll be more of a useful player than he was this season, maybe, especially as the season went on. But he didn't start the season off pretty bad. He started off well when Zaha gave him the ball at Tottenham in front of the goal. He finished it off. But I feel like he lost a bit of confidence as the season went on. And next season, if he does get that confidence back, if we do deliver the balls to him, if we do have a playmaker behind him, I feel like he will get more goals. He will get more goals and he'll be a genuine contender with Mateta, which it didn't feel like, especially this season. T, what do you think? What do you think about the Edwards situation this season and going forward? And what?
Well, I mean, it's some things we got to consider. He didn't have a full summer with the squad. You know what I mean? He was literally playing at Celtic when he came to us. Like he had played, I want to say, a good handful of games, I do believe, and scored maybe 3 or 4 goals before coming over. So like it was, I know for him it was probably a process of changing mind frames and going to a new team, more competitive league, trying to figure things out. But I guess at a certain point, it's like how that bleeds into later on in the season. But like you said, it took Mateta a year to really acclimate, to get an idea of how things are going to be and where he fit in. So I think Edward is definitely a capable enough player who will figure it out and get it together. And thinking about like what you were talking about with the Manchester United performance, it's just like he was kind of like glory hunting a little bit. He was trying to find that goal that would put him back on the mental good form, almost not even just physical on the pitch, but like mentally saying, hey, I'm back, I'm doing my thing. Like the thing that stands out was the one ball that he tried to score on rather than passing it to Gallagher. That's clear and present. Hey,
yeah.
But in seeing that one, like you hate that he did it, but you knew exactly why he was doing it because he wanted that.
But that's
also
one moment from the season as well. That's also one moment from the lot of games that he has played as well. But that moment, I feel like, I don't know about that moment, summed up towards the end of the season and how he was feeling, doing too much.
Absolutely. He felt like he needed something going into the summer. He needed that. He felt like he probably needed that goal to put himself in the right situation. So I think with a full training camp, prior to the season, like you said, I think he could be more effective for us and be on a higher level competing with Mateta. And I mean, that's just part of the belief. I mean, you don't sign a guy to a 5-year contract without believing in him and hopefully giving him that time to adjust to become more effective. So
exactly, and he's so young as well.
So I want to go just tease some great points, but just going back to the Edward at Celtic before the season started, he's played 8 games during that preseason, including Europa League, and scored 3 goals. But just to go back at D with his false narrative about he didn't play enough, Edward started 18 out of 28 matches, scored 6 goals. Mateta started 13 out of 22, scored 5 goals.
Okay,
so in 6 less games, 1 less start, 5 less starts, he scored 1 less goal. So keep talking about he scored less goals. Keep saying that.
No. All right, but I'm not denying that Edward at the start of the season had more opportunities. Okay. I'm talking about later on in the season. You can see he was frustrated because how many of them starts was towards the end of the season. There were moments where Edward wasn't getting talked about. Like he just got left aside. No one really,
because Mateta was playing better than him. That's why.
Yeah, he was playing better than him. But then I feel like that it's not like, let's not sit here and act like Edward started all 38 games towards the later stage of the season, especially after January. He wasn't involved as much. And maybe that's rightly so because he hasn't been playing as good. Maybe he hasn't been playing as good.
Well, you definitely have to. I mean,
but he wasn't involved as much. He wasn't.
you have to give credit to the fact that when he first got that benching situation where he just wasn't playing, that was weird because he had been playing very well at the time that he got sat down. So that was weird, at least for us as fans. It was weird to see because he literally got benched the game after he had scored, and I think he had scored maybe 3 out of 4 matches before he got sat down, and we didn't see him for that extended amount of time. So it's kind of weird to not see him, but but you don't know what what Vieira was seeing in training either.
He got benched. The benching period started after Brentford away from home, and I was at that game. And if you're benching him because of that game, then that is very harsh because we didn't have any service in the box. That's been our struggles at points of the season where in the final third, at times we just didn't know what to do in the final third. Brentford were just sitting back and Edouard had to go outside the box to bring others into the game. And he played, I remember that you're talking about the Norwich game, he scored a goal. In the West Ham game, he scored a goal. He didn't score against Brighton, then he scored against Liverpool. So he scored them 3 goals. Then he had the game against Norwich. Away from home, which was for 10 minutes he came on. And then he started the Brentford game. Then he was just on the bench. Like, he was on the bench. He started the Newcastle game. Then he started the Watford game. And then United. But it was limited. He had, he had starting 11. He had 18 games in the starting 11. 10 on the bench. 10 substituted in and 7 on the bench. So he only started 18 games, Patrick. 18 games.
I just said that to you. But what you're missing is that you forget that when he was benched, Mateta started to score goals. Mateta was scoring.
Yep.
Mateta scored against. He scored right away against Watford away. It kept him out exactly. He scored in the cup games. So that was the reason why it wasn't like he was benched and then he wasn't getting any playtime, but he wasn't playing. Mateta came in and it started just took off as far as playing style, looking at play. And by the way, one of the best games that Edouard had was Liverpool. Why? Because playing with Mateta. Remember that Mateta set him up for that goal against Liverpool. So maybe next season we'll try to.
But then that kind of proves my point, though, about having a playmaker behind him. He needed someone. He was isolated, so that's why I still have faith in him next season. If Eze's behind him, if he has someone to link up with, I still feel like he could be the man going forward. I still feel
But
that.
Mateta scored goals without what you're saying, though. But Mateta scoring without needing a playmaker. So what does that say about Mateta? Maybe he'll score even more goals than Edouard because he could play without a playmaker.
Maybe.
We'll see.
But
another
player, because you think about it, when Edouard was at Celtic, he had a partner striker with him when he was playing. Either he had Lee Griffiths or he had somebody in the 10. So he did have that support. Yeah. And, maybe that's just something that he needs because, being a lone striker, it seemed like a lot of times he would then try to drop into the midfield too far to try to pick up the ball. And then it led into what you talked about, D, of him trying to do too much on the ball rather than trying to just shoot and score.
It might be. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section. I don't think there's a straightforward answer. Let us know if Edouard could still be the man going forward next season and if he'll get more involved because it's going to be interesting. I doubt he wants to be on the bench and only start, 18 games next season as well. But it's not going to be easy if you're playing like that. Elise, Patrick, I'll let you take on Elise because I've got a cough there. And he's only had 26 appearances last season. Got 5 assists, 2 goals. He's only 20 years old, and they're talking about another contract already because they're talking about release clause and 30 mil, and they want to increase that to 50 mil. But Michael Elise, for me, anyways, he only started 12 games, made more sub appearances than starts 14 games. Michael Elise next season, if you think he was good this season, next season, watch out for him because he has shown the glimpses of what he can do. And imagine if he starts 20 to 30 games. He only started 12, remember that, and got 5 assists. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. And I think if we're worried about one player leaving, it's him. It's him. And if he does leave, he's leaving for very good money because he's a phenomenal talent. His ability on the ball this season, for what we've seen, great. And next season, that's what I'm looking forward to. Him starting more games. 12 is not enough. It's not enough. And in that 12 games, it felt like he started 20 games due to the contributions he's made. So for me, I was excited. You're not agreeing with me, Patrick, or
no. I'm disagreeing in the fact that no, he didn't start enough games for you, but I think that Vieira did a brilliant job bringing him on. You can't throw a 19-year-old player.
But he was injured as well.
Right.
And
so
that played a part to it. So I'm not saying Vieira should have started more games or you're pathetic, get out of your club. I'm just saying if he's only started 12 games this season, 14 sub appearances, 5 assists, and based on just the eye test, forget about the stats, he has massive potential going into next season if he stays fit.
100%. But my only point was being that I thought that, I know we all were saying throw him out there. What happened with a young player like that coming from the championship? If he throw him out there, doesn't do well, his confidence is shot. If you look at Michael Lisa, if you ever watch him, I watch a lot of the Palace TV stuff. He's a very, very shy person. He's a confident player on the pitch, but he's a very shy person. They did a great job. You had Jordan Ayew. For all his negative part, Ayew does a job that at least learn from. At least they did a much better job towards the end of the season in tracking back. 100% next season should be starting. But I think Vieira did a really good job in weaning him on. You're right, he had injuries, getting him on. Have him next year start from the beginning of the season, 100%. I think that that his potential is unbelievable. His left foot is brilliant. He can cross a ball. He can shoot a ball. He can pick out a pass. The pass he made to Gallagher early in the season as a sub to set the goal Man City was brilliant. The goal that he scored against Leicester in that comeback, to make it 2-1, was brilliant. Potential unlimited. Like UD, we have to lock him up the longer term contract with the bigger release clause. I'm afraid someone like, look at now, Liverpool apparently going to lose Mane. They could be in for him at some point. I mean, they did just sign Diaz, but honestly, a top 4 side, Spurs, I hate to say it, Tottenham are going to be looking for players because they're back in Champions League now. It's a worry. It's a Man United. Hate to say it, Man United could be in for him because again, new manager. Hopefully, he'll stay in, with the Dutch players. But there's a potential we could lose him. Hopefully not. But like I was telling you before about Gahey, I think our whole model is different now. The old patterns under Mike, maybe Simon Jordan would say, you know what, been in Champions Premier League now for 10 years. Let me sell on this player for profit. We don't need the money. We've got American owners, backing Texter, Harrison Blitzer. Paris has got money. We got we're in the league again. We win. You get money for staying up for the finish. We finished 12th place. There's money for that being higher up the table. No reason to get rid of Elise. No reason to not resign to a bigger contract for next season, personal terms. Have him stay at least 2 more years. Sell him on the project. The project is top 10, maybe Conference League, a League Cup. Sell him on that. On you just said before, on more games started. Yeah, I've given you a year in the Premier League. You showed me you can play next season, kid. You're one of my go-to players. I'm building a team around you, around Zaha, around Edouard, around Eze. Do you know what I mean? And say around Gahey. So to me, the future is very, very bright. He's a brilliant player. Hope he stays. Hope he does really well going forward.
If he starts 30 to 38 games next season, how many goals and assists do you expect from him? Do you think we could enter territory based on what we've seen this season that our expectations could be a bit high from him next season? He's still young as well, but he has shown glimpses of what he can do. So I still have high expectations because he's a baller and he can shred any defense to bits on his day.
Exactly. So in terms of that, when you're talking about appearances, this past season, total appearances, I'm seeing here on Transfer Market, they had him at 31, including the FA Cup. But the interesting thing is, we talk about those 5 assists in the Premier League. Of those 5 assists, 3 were in sub appearances. So it's kind of like if he gets more, if you think about what he could be doing if he's out there more often. You know what I'm saying? He had 1 assist in only 17 minutes played, another assist in only 30 minutes played, another assist in 22 minutes played. So, and that's really that's a great stat because he's making things happen in a smaller amount of time. That super sub idea. You know what I mean? So when you're looking at what this kid can do, and you're talking about him making 30 appearances or, close to 2+ starts in a season, you could be looking at 8 goals, 10 assists, 10 and 10 type of thing for him. I could easily see that. I mean, he had 9 overall in all competitions this year in assists and 4 goals in all competitions. So, he's the type of kid that the more time you give him, the more effective he's going to be. So
the cup doesn't count. The cup doesn't count, T. The cup doesn't count.
We didn't win the cup, so it doesn't count. Based on Patrick's logic.
Good play is good play.
Yeah, but look, Elise, phenomenal talent, and if he's got 5 assists or 9 assists, as you said, T, including everything else, then that boy next season, if he starts games and he's a regular starter, then everyone is eating well next season if he's playing for us. Everyone is from his balls, And these assists that's coming in and goals as well. He's got goals in his locker as well. Everyone will be eating well. And the final player quickly because we're running out of time. Final player that I want to mention is Conor Gallagher. So we don't know if he's going to be with us next season. It's unlikely, but well, what happened? I don't know why he's nodding his head like that. Like
he's gone. He's gone. He's not coming back. He's gone.
Okay.
Season.
All right.
He's gone.
So Conor Gallagher's gone. All right, let's say Conor Gallagher doesn't come back. In terms of the season that he's had and his influence on the team, are we going to miss him? And who is the player to potentially replace him? Just thoughts on Conor Gallagher's season, and has he had that big of? Because we talk about goals and assists, but for me, it's more than that. It's the presses and how we press it from the front. Is Eze the answer? Because Patrick Vieira hinted that we already have a player like that at the club. Is Eze the answer of Conor Gallagher? And with Conor Gallagher, if he does come back, how do you see that folding with Eze Gallagher together?
For me, I don't listen. Fantasy world, he comes back. There's absolutely no way that he comes back for multiple reasons. One, the fee is going to be exorbitant. We play with teams like, again, an option, but you know what? If I'm Conor Gallagher, I'm going back to Chelsea. I'm going to see if I can get into that side during preseason. If they say, you're not ready yet, yeah, a loan is possible. What if Newcastle say, you know what? We saw what you liked last year. We're going to offer you 80 million. Or Tottenham say, you know what? We like what you like from me. We'll offer you 85 million. PSG, I don't know.
He's not worth that much.
I said offer. I didn't say. I said offer, not pay. So you started a number that makes no sense, right? You drop it down. So they pay 50. My point being, we're not gonna pay for him. So let's just say he's not gonna be back. First, let me just say, phenomenal season because beginning of the year, Maka mentored him brilliantly, walked him through matches, and by the middle of the season, when Maka was injured, he was phenomenal by himself. And what you just said, D, we started making comments on the player ratings, how he'd run X amount of kilometers a game and how his legs are killing him. He was phenomenal.
And that's key. It's not running for no reason. It helped 100%. Us massively.
It was part of a system that Vieira created. Now, this is what I want to say. With Nice and with NYCFC, they pressed, but not like we pressed this season. So obviously, Vieira saw a player he could use. So my point is he's going to adjust the system. He's done it already, going to 3 at the back for the season. He'll adjust the system. Did it at Nice, did it at NYCFC. He can adjust the system. For me, Eze is a player that will not 100% replace Gallagher. Different player, better on the ball, better assist player, probably less goals, better set pieces. To me, you put Eze, Olise, Zaha, start with those 3 as creative and goal-scoring options. Mateta or Edward up front. Put whoever you want to put behind him, Kiyate, Decore, Hughes, Maka, whomever that is. And you go from there. If Eze isn't the answer because let's say he still hasn't 100% recovered, then maybe we go into the market and we loan another player. Listen, I love Conor Gallagher, but let's be honest with you. You mentioned before, West Brom didn't do that at West Brom, did he? So obviously we know talent. Dougie knows talent. Vieira knows talent. He'll find somebody else. So I love what Conor did, and I'm going to miss him. But I never believed in that 18 should build around one player. He was phenomenal. If we get him back, I would take him 100%. But I truly believe under Vieira, not under another manager, by the way, under this manager, he will make the adjustments to whether it's Eze or another player to put some, maybe Lewis O'Brien from Huddersfield, what they're watching right now in the playoff final. Decent player, more of a DM, but can get the ball forward, but knocks about around a little bit. Again, I have faith that we'll get someone to replace Gallagher because no one is irreplaceable. No one is.
So T, I wanna move on to the next part of the show. Just talk about the players that we've been most impressed with. We'll quickly run it through. For me, is Zaha. Zaha is the player that I want to talk about. 33 games, 14 goals, only 3 less than Harry Kane. He's up there with Salah. I think he's top 9 in terms of goals. He's in the top 10 Premier League goal scorers this season.
Wow.
So thoughts on this season and what happens with Zaha going forward? Do we offer him an extension? Because I have not seen Wilf this talkative about how good Palace is and how much he's enjoying it in a long time. He seemed like he's genuinely enjoying football, scoring the goals. And despite him scoring the goals, Vieira came out and said he still expects more. So with Zaha, how do you sum up his season in terms of a score out of 10? And how do you see it going forward? Is Zaha here to stay for another 3 to 5 years if Vieira is going to be our manager?
Okay. One quick comment just about the whole Eze Connor thing. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think Eze replaces Connor. but I think Eze could be the player that makes you forget about Connor. That's all I'm
I
saying,
like the way
but
he
we'll
said
see.
that. Love that.
Um,
Love that.
in terms of Zaha, man, I think honestly, if like you're saying, when you're watching him and you're talking about how fervent he is with his reactions, he's talking about the system and what the gaffer's doing and how the team is playing, man. You would think that Wolf is good, wants to stay where he is because he probably believes in what's going on right now. And to be honest with you, if I'm Wolf, why wouldn't you? Because honestly, he's gotten the best out of you that you've ever had in your entire career in 1 year, in less than 1 year. If I'm Wolf, I'm like, man, I can only imagine what else this man can do for me in my career and in my abilities as a player. Not only that, but this entire club. So I mean, I think Wilf is probably just as all in as a lot of these young guys are with being around Patrick Vieira, learning from him and what it's doing for the club. He's on the cusp of legendary status. Like Wolf is almost statue worthy when it
No,
comes
it
to
will be
Crystal
statue.
Palace.
I think
You
he
know
is
what I'm saying?
statue.
So and in thinking about that, why wouldn't I want to continue with this? I have he has the opportunity to be hands down with no debate the greatest player in this club's history. That's what he's
He
on the
is.
cusp of right now. You know,
I think he is.
and you
He's
know, yeah, I'm with you on that. But I feel like right now it's still debatable. There's still a lot of older Crystal Palace fans that will probably think about other people that would be up there more deserving than him. But
Like
right
me.
now,
Yeah, like me. Right.
exactly. Patrick could probably name off 2 or 3 players that he feels will be up there for that type of title. But what I'm saying is, right now he's in the rarefied air of being able to encompass that and make himself
Absolutely.
the guy.
Agree. Yep.
No Mark Bright, no Ian Wright, no Wilfred Zaha. You know what I'm saying? So honestly, man, I'm hoping that he takes the extension and he solidifies himself as because you can think about going places and trying to win trophies and things, which is natural for a player. But at the same time, man, you're about to be 30 years old, and the opportunity to win those titles might come, but they might not come with you playing a huge part in it. Because he could go to some of these contender teams and they may not see him as the huge role that we do. So
Yeah.
if
I
I'm
think
Wilf, man, I
yeah.
mean, he stays.
I think the risk before the reward was higher than the risk, but I feel like the risk is higher than the reward of him potentially moving
Yes.
on now. Before under Hodgson,
Yes.
if I'm Zaha, I'm leaving. I did not even blame him
Yep.
because it was just too stale. The system wasn't suiting him, even though he scored 10 goals. And forget about Hodgson, the whole club itself. We just had an aging squad. It's like Zaha is our savior, nothing else.
Right.
But right now, Zaha, let's see if he moves on to a top 4 team or top 6 team. Then who is realistically going to play him week in, week out? We're talking about even Conor Gallagher and how good he's been and how much he's on the radar of every other team. Even if he goes
Right.
back to Chelsea, there's a risk of him not playing every single week because it's Chelsea Football Club. They've got talented players there. They've got talented players in the academy that could come out. They've got talented players in the first team squad. So it's going to be hard for him. But right now, I feel like Zaha has found a sweet spot. Patrick Vieira is it. You can see it in the training ground videos. You can see it just in general in his style of play. He genuinely enjoys playing with Vieira. And they seem like they've got a good relationship going on with each other. He's got 14 goals this season and 33 games. That's absolutely great. He would have imagined that, like, I don't know, probably maybe you could have imagined that. But for me personally, under Hodgson, that 10 goals was a bit, of Zaha doing himself. If this is his first season with Patrick Vieira and next season he can improve as well as a player and get the system know the system a bit better, he can score more than 14 goals. And that's where the scary part starts for other teams because Zaha is still, he hasn't lost it. He's still got in him. He's in his prime, but he can still score more goals. I truly believe that he could have scored at least next season. If he scored 14 this season, he could score 16, 17. And that is up there with the elites of the Premier League, 16, 17 goals. One of the hardest leagues in the world. So for me, Zaha has to stay. He has to stay for his own benefit. Him leaving, it doesn't really make sense, even if he has the potential to play Champions League football, because in the Champions League games, he might even not play because of how these squads are built. There's too much depth involved in most teams. So for me, he has to say, Patrick, just for you, just quickly, what player are you most impressed with? Is it Wilf or is it someone else?
Overall, I'd say the most impressive player would be Wolf, based on everything I just said. Again, he had a phenomenal season. Without him, we have a much more difficult task because our strikers weren't really firing all season. Start off with Edward, then Benteke got a little bit of a run, did well, and then obviously Mateta towards the end of the season. But Wilf was consistent the whole time. He had a little blip before AFCON with the Tottenham thing. People went crazy about that, which I think again overboard. People that know him, we know how he wants to win. He wants to win, and losing doesn't go well with him. So, but he bounced back from that. Had a phenomenal post AFCONs. The penalty additions were interesting. I think he takes a really good penalty. The Norwich one was a slip, but the one against Leicester was interesting that he got psyched out by Schmeichel. But overall, penalty kicks were much improved. And it's nice to have somebody step up. Luca was the same way that you had that confidence in. That really helped him. So he had a great season. Would he move on? I don't think so. For me, kind of like with Vieira, the one place he would probably have gone to would have been Arsenal. Arteta doesn't want him. They're getting rid of Pepe, who they thought was better than Wolf, where they signed him in the first place. They're not even in Champions League. I mean, yeah, Europa League's better than playing with us with no Europe, but I know he's an Arsenal fan. Unless they offer him a ridiculous contract, which they might do, they give him catch 100 grand a week, so probably give Will 300 grand a week. So it doesn't make sense for him to leave at this point. You're right, you understand the club, D totally, but gets Vieira. I don't know if you guys watched the training video. The academy opening talks about how what he played on and the difference. I think he definitely is a mentor for players like Raksaki, Olise, the young Akinwale, the young kids in the academy, or Mulabu. They look up to him. They could say, well, that's what I could be. No, Wilf, as T said, he's Mr. Crystal Palace. He'll get a statue at some point. Probably right up there, top 3 for me, all-time Palace players. I've seen tons: Don Rogers and Peter Taylor, Ian Wright, Kenny Sansom, Julian Speroni as a goalkeeper was brilliant. So, but Jim Cannon. But yeah, he's up there. And to me, most definitely the most impressive player of the season for me was Wolf.
For me, he's top 2 and he ain't second. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what happens from here onwards. He's already solidified his spot, regardless of what happens. All right, cool. Let's just wrap it up because we've been talking about Palace for quite a bit. It's been an interesting season to talk about. To be fair, it flew by for me anyways. I haven't even noticed the time. Let's finish off with the one negative. Well, actually, let's not finish off with negative. Quickly, players that we're disappointed with. Maybe we had an expectation for them this season. Maybe it could be Edwards. Maybe players that played. For me, not disappointed, but Luka Milivojevic, he's a player that we have to move on from. I just think he's finished with Crystal Palace. Maybe Edwards, I'm disappointed with him as well in terms of how my expectation for him, and I thought that we found the striker, and Mateta managed to take a spot like that. I expected a bit more from him, but other than that, it's been a positive season. So there's not that many disappointments for me. But for you guys, quickly, disappointments, if there's any players that you expected a bit more from.
I would say again, you're right. I would say Edward for me came with a lot of hype. The way he signed, the signing, the video, the song, and everything like that, and didn't reach the heights. I'm looking forward to him to be better next year. And I'm not disappointed in Luka because honestly, Luka didn't even get a chance to get into our midfield. So
but he has played and he looked poor. He looked poor,
but better towards the end of the season. But again, I was a big Luka fan early in his career, not as much the last 2 years with the whole lockout. And I always bring in that kind of stuff because stuff that people do outside of football matter to me. Their opinions matter to me because they're people like we are. So, but yeah, disappointed in Luka, and that would really be it, honestly. Because honestly, I think overall Vieira used the squad very, very well. Brought on players that you weren't expecting to. Really utilize players like Schlupp and Kouyaté, who we might have thought probably didn't deserve to play and who played really well. Brought in newer players like Hughes and Gallagher and Anderson and Olise, and they all improved the squad. Butland came in and improved the squad. So, but as far as disappointment, yeah, I would say Luka and Edward were my most disappointing players this season.
T, before you say yours, I'm not going to say he can be a disappointment because I felt like he just all of a sudden didn't get opportunities. But Benteke, he's an interesting player we'll probably talk about when looking ahead to the next show. Could you say he's been a disappointment? But I don't know how you can you, because he didn't really do bad. He was scoring goals at the start of the season. Let's not forget. I think he's got 5 goals this season, has he? or something like that. So it's not
Something
like
like that,
Benteke's had a
4,
bad
5.
season, but yeah, he started off well, and then all of a sudden it's out the blip. Could Benteke be up there for you, or is it just
He scored
Edwards?
he
or someone
scored
else?
four goals in 11 starts
Four.
in 25
It's
matches with the club.
interesting.
Yeah, 4 and
Yeah.
11.
And which that's not bad. And like we think about it, 4 goals and 11 starts. That's not a bad return. Like that, it's not horrible.
Nah, yeah.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
not.
No.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, if I'm being completely truthful and I'm thinking about the season in review, I don't really attach the word disappointment to any of our players. To be completely honest with you, you know what I mean. I'm not disappointed by a lot of guys, should I say?
Right.
I would points of frustration would be my thing. I had the most points of frustration with Jordan Ayew, hands down.
Oh, are you?
It's just the truth. It's just the truth.
But why?
Because there
But
was
you've
like
had this IU agenda for a very long time. What do you
Yes,
expect from
agenda.
IU?
no.
Points
This was different.
You understand?
This
Didn't
year,
have
this
this
year was
agenda because
different.
I remember. No.
This year it was
I remember
different.
you. But even when he scored that 9 goals to keep us up, you guys were. I remember you and Stan were talking about he's only scored 9 goals. It wasn't something that great. You haven't been a fan of IU for a very long time. So what are you disappointed about IU this season?
I said moments. I didn't say disappointed. I said moments of frustration.
Like what?
Key moments of frustration when this man gets on a breakaway on a 2-on-1 and he decides to just fly the goal on a shot, or he has the perfect opportunity to put in a great cross to a wide open guy in the box and he kicks it directly to the defender. Like he had the most points of frustration.
Even if it says his name, he could be describing Edward right now.
Edward.
And the problem might have been Edward might have been the guy in the center that should have got the ball. It goes back to your issue of service. But no, I wasn't disappointed with really anybody. I mean, I wasn't expecting Luka to do a lot. I wasn't expecting a lot from him. So I wasn't disappointed with him. I wasn't expecting a lot from Benteke. So I wasn't disappointed with Benteke. Because honestly, I thought coming into the year with Edward coming in, that Benteke wasn't gonna get a lot of opportunities because Edwards was gonna come in, especially after what we saw in Tottenham. I was like, oh yeah. When he scored those 2 against Tottenham, I was like, Benteke is done.
I was like, this is our striker that we've been waiting for
exactly.
a long time.
Exactly. So I don't think there was really anybody that was truly disappointing to me. I was disappointed by the fact that Nathan Ferguson couldn't stay healthy. So there was some disappointment with that. Disappointed not to see him get out there. Disappointed with the fact that somehow, even by not playing, James Tompkins could still get injured. Still gets hurt. You don't play, and you're still getting hurt. Like those were things that I was disappointed with. But overall, I think, like you said, the way that Vieira handled the squad, the way that he made the necessary rotations and changes and things, I think he allowed us to not really get disappointed in certain players because he didn't put them out there to allow us to be disappointed with them too much. So
I agree. All right, cool. Let's end it on a positive note. Just quickly, game of the season for you guys. I'm going to start off with Man City away from home. You might be surprised, but for me, traveling there and expecting us to lose, and it was our first game against Man City under Patrick Vieira and beating them 2-0, keeping a clean sheet away from home. I know they had 10 men, but Man City with 10 men are still a very dangerous force considering the players that's got off the bench and, brilliant team. So game of the season for me, Man City away from home. In fact, I'm going to add another thing. Disappointing game of the season, Chelsea and FA Cup semi-final. I'll start off with you, Patrick. Go.
So for me, the match of the season was the Monday night win against Arsenal. Absolutely love taking points off of Arsenal. Love it. As you guys know, my nephew is a big Arsenal fan. So whenever we beat Arsenal, it's fun. I have 2 reasons why I always hated Arsenal. One, when we sold Kenny Sansom when I was very young, my favorite player, to Arsenal. And then about 11 years later, we sold Ian Wright, or 15 years later, we sold Ian Wright to Arsenal. Just really upsets me. So I've always hated Arsenal. So beating them, Jordan Ayew's goal, I know, just about Ayew. I love the fact that he was able to get some redemption for people getting on his case, scoring that goal. That was brilliant. So beating Arsenal, disappointing. And I agree with you as far as the Man City game, but because of the 10 men, I don't tend to rate that game as much. Disappointing match for me was the FA Cup semi-final.
It could be Everton. It depends how you look at it.
Nah, there's late in the season. I have a personal agenda against Lampard. I want to send him down. That game didn't bother me. the game I cared most about all season that we lost was the Chelsea game. No other loss that I really care about because they were league matches, and I know Palace have a ceiling that we get to. We pretty much reached that ceiling for this season. Just to get disappointing. I'm not as disappointed as you are, D, with the formation issue. I thought not having Gallagher was a massive issue for us, and I don't know how we're never going to overcome that. We haven't been Chelsea in ages, so I was just hoping we could beat them one time. Just one time beating us to the final. And then the mistake that Mitchell made, because I love that kid, he played so well, and then have lost the cheek of all people score that goal. I haven't been upset all season. That's
Mitchell's
the only loss that
mistakes.
upset me.
I don't want to go to Chelsea game. Mitchell's mistakes were due to the formation. That second half was everything.
I just said that to you, though. I just said that the formation was an issue, but you keep bringing back on that about that being a mistake. Formation don't make you make mistakes. You make mistakes. No, being human makes a mistake.
And we don't want to go to Chelsea review show because that
you're doing it again. You're saying that he was in a different position.
But in a normal situation, Mitchell has a player down the line. In that system, we look lost going forward. We look lost. The chances that we did create were from set pieces. And at home against Chelsea, in that 4-3-3, we created way more chances and we lost narrowly 1-0 in the 89th minute from a cross going into the box. We played Chelsea 3 times. First game of the season, it was that 3-0 defeat, 4-4-2. Vieira was scared in his approach. Second game of the season, we stuck to our principles. And like that, it was a narrow defeat, 1-0. This game, we changed up again, just like the first game of the season against Chelsea. And in the first half, it was great because Chelsea was shocked by our tactical approach. They made adjustments. We got found out. It's simple as that. And then mistakes came from our tactics personally. We overthought it. I just didn't like it. I would have respected it if we just stuck to our formation. I know we want to play 5 at the back, but try that against Newcastle. Try that against other teams. Let's just, I don't know. He overthought it like Pep does at certain games. So, yeah. Anyways, sorry to cut you off, Patrick.
No, you hijacked me. So, go ahead, T.
You hijacked him. No, but I agree with that, though, D. I mean, you think about it. We played Chelsea 3 different times. We played them 3 different ways. And that's a perfect example of Vieira's pragmatism and how he tries to make changes.
But what method worked the best? What method worked the best? The second method at home when we lost narrowly 1-0. That worked the best.
Result wise, you would say the second one. I thought the initial approach of the third time was great because Chelsea didn't know what to do. And I think honestly a lot of
but then we didn't know what to do going forward.
No, but see, I think that's the thing. That's the thing, though. I think the issues that we had in the second half of Chelsea was down to our players, not down to our system.
Thank you.
System.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Agree.
Don't blame I blame the players.
Because here's the thing.
I blame the players many times, but in that game, it was a system because Chelsea made adjustments and we just didn't have the right players in the right positions. Mitchell was trying to pass it down the line, and in normal situation, there's going to be somewhere there, but as it's tucked it a bit in central, Chelsea just made adjustments tactically and they've done us. You can blame the players in games like Everton, in games like Southampton. But in the Chelsea game, it was down to the system. In the first half, we were great defensively because Chelsea didn't know what to do pretty much. But they had Marcus Alonso as a left wing back, one of the biggest liabilities. He's great going forward, but defensively, we couldn't attack him if everyone was playing in the right positions. And if we didn't have Joel Ward playing as right wing back, attacking Marcus Alonso, we create more chances going forward. And then mistakes in the second half happened 100% due to the system. The players, they trained on it for 1 week. And in the second half, you could see it was only a 1 week job because we just didn't know what to do going forward and we were just pinned back. That's how I see it.
Okay. Well, my best performance of the season probably would be a little bit different than some people's, but mine was be Wolves. The reason why I say Wolves is because we dominated that match from minute 1 to minute 90 plus. They didn't have a chance. And that was the first time that I said to myself, wow, look what we have the ability to do. Because I remember all the talk going into that game of where Wolves were, the form that they were in, how they weren't giving up goals, how they were so stout on defense and they were keeping the ball. And we came in and we just shut all that down and didn't give them a sniff the entire game. And it was something so different from everything we had seen prior in the season. There was no comebacks, there was no ties. There was the only time we was tied when it was 0-0. And after that, boom, 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 they wasn't getting nothing else. You know what I mean? So that was the one that really stood out to me the most, just because of how we were just so in control of that match. I think the most disappointing one for me was Leeds at Leeds.
Oh, geez, I was there.
Because
I felt like crying. I traveled to Leeds on a Tuesday
because
night.
because you can vouch, Leeds were so bad. They were bad. And we played like it was one of those things like you felt we played down to their level that match. That one was the most disappointing to me. I mean, the Chelsea match in the FA Cup, like it hurt. Like naturally we wanted to win it. Naturally it hurt, and we wanted to win it.
We could have beat them.
But at the same time, the understanding of how or what the expectations were for us going into that match, anything other than us losing would have been a surprise to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? So like, I didn't feel disappointed. I didn't feel disappointed when we lost that match. I was hurt.
It just hurt. Yeah, I agree.
It hurt.
It just hurt.
But I was disappointed with Leeds.
In a manner that we lost.
And think about it, like in that Leeds match, us coming into that match, how we had been playing. If we could have got that 3 points, what that 3 points would have meant to us in that top 10 push. You know what I mean? So
even a point. If you know,
even
it was a 90 minute.
Like,
exactly.
Oh man,
there's so many games like that. Arsenal, Brighton, so many, even a point or 3 points. But look, we'll wrap it up now. We spoke about this season in great depth. Thank you to Patrick, thank you to T, thank you to everyone who's watched this as well. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and let us know your thoughts, because we've had debates, we've had some good moments reflecting on a good season as well. But thanks to everyone who has listened, watched Back of the Nest and interacted with us all season long. You're all legends. And until next season, which shouldn't be too long, up the Palace.